In a world where no one knows how to communicate, here we have communication skills coming to you from Stretch It Out Podcast.
That was great.
Bang, bang.
Gang, that was incredible. That was incredible.
I like that West Coast call coming from Karen over there.
Oh, that was fantastic, y'all.
It took every muscle in my body not to laugh out loud.
So that was Karen? Was that Karen?
Yeah,
In the back?
Yes. I
Oh,
was
goodness.
brah.
Oh my gosh. Karen, you are a G. You are a G. Mad respect.
Welcome, listeners. Now they know
Thank you,
who's on the podcast.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Stretch It Out podcast. That amazing intro. Kudos to you, Jenna. And most people don't realize, but that was shot before a live studio audience. Not really, but it was recorded live. So we did not do really any post on that. So
We didn't plan for it.
yeah, kudos to you on that intro, Jenna.
It was a great intro.
Thanks for having me back.
Hey, and welcome back, Jenna. Yes, welcome back, Jenna. Welcome back to Podcastland.
Yes.
Glad to have you.
I am here again. And I also have my friend Karen here as well. And she was the lovely human being soul that I was talking about last time. She has her own business, Fit Wheels. And she is
Yes.
here and she would love to talk a little bit more about it. So Karen, where you at, Sue?
I'm
Karen?
right here. How's everybody? Thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure's all ours.
Like I said, it's my first time doing a podcast,
First
and
Oh
I
my
feel
God.
extremely special
You are.
being a part of this one. Thank you, Jenna. Yeah, I run a mobile gym bus for kids. It's called Fit Wheels. So just imagine
Shout out.
a school bus, and I converted it into a fun fitness gym for kids. And inside this cheerful bus, our mission is to provide kids with an exciting, fitness-focused experience that will empower them to lead healthy lives, that lifestyle that we all want. And I believe that it's at a young age is the time, and it's the best time to start empowering our little ones and get them active so that they can have a successful life. And this was all a dream that I had. And once I was able to let go of my fears and recognize what my limited beliefs were, I then was able to step into my power and making this dream come true, which is my bus, because I've always wanted to have this bus 3 years ago. Well,
Wow.
now it's like 6 years ago, but yeah, and here it is now. Now, sadly, due to the pandemic, we had to put that on to a hold, right?
Oh, that is such a bummer. Yeah.
Yeah, because we run to schools, we do birthday parties, private events, after school enrichment programs, summer camps. I mean, you name it.
I mean, and you've really kind of rooted in a lot of ways. I'm assuming it's just blossomed, and you've got a lot of relationships with a lot of kids out there that I'm sure I'm just heartbroken for those kids, because what are they doing now, right?
Right. Yeah, that's well, now it's become the Zoom live, right? So
Yeah.
what I did, you had to think fast, because inside the gym there's rock climbing, there's zip lining, there's trampoline, there's a giant ball pit, and there trapeze. And people
That's
always
so cool.
ask, the popular question is, do you drive with the kids in it? Of course not, because liability is a number one concern here, guys.
Yes. Good call.
Yes. And so yeah, I had to be quick and decided, all right, I have to become a master on the Zoom and start having classes. So what I did, I created a program and I called it Empower Mind. So in this program, it's life coaching for kids. And I like to call myself like a mind coach, right? We all need that coach on the side and to
Yes, I
empower
love
us and uplift us and coach us in whatever obstacles we're going through in life. Basically, that coach, that person that just want to make sure that you have that life that you dreamed of, or that life that you vision of, right?
Yes.
How old you
Amen.
got to be? Kids
Preach.
like up to
Ooh.
26? Because
Can I join?
Yeah, so I actually work with kids from 5 years old up until adults. And I also right now, due to all this stuff, I go to Vegas and I fly out there and I have trainings. I host trainings out there with adults. So sometimes they're like, I coach teams from like 80, sometimes 100 people. And it's an amazing work, and just like the transformation you get to see in people when they come into this room, and then the minute they walk out, it's like wow. You get to really see people jumping into their power and like just living a life full of possibilities. What does that look like? So anyways, that's what I'm doing now. So I created this Empower Mind program on Zoom, and we do fun fitness activities. I teach kids about, what it's like to live an extraordinary life, because at the end of the day, we get to create that, right? And
Amen.
so I think it's up to us, no matter what we're going through, especially during this time. We get to we get to choose. That's the beauty of it, that we get to create what we want every day. And so yeah, it's great. I'm starting to, I have I coach kids on Zoom, and it'll be like within an hour session, and in that session we do fitness. It's very quick. We do fitness. And then the cool thing about the Empower Mind program, I implement storytelling. I'm amazing at storytelling, guys.
Yeah, I love that.
Did I not
Yes.
tell you she was going to be an amazing guest?
I love it. I'm already like so touched and inspired. So
Aw.
I'm forgetting that
keep it
I'm in
going.
podcast land right now. I feel like I'm just listening to the podcast in my car.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks, Karen. Take it away.
No. So like, what makes this Empower
Lemonade, anyone?
Mind? Say what? Oh yeah.
I'm
No
kidding,
sugar,
I'm
please.
kidding.
What makes the program so powerful is that I use storytelling. It's real life experiences to support our kids to develop like that powerful mindset that they can use in their everyday life. And that's what it's all about, you know? And I believe that there's no young age to start empowering our little ones. Because think about it. Let's like take a moment and reflect, right? How many times have you said, Audrey or Jenna, like how many times have you guys said, man, if only I knew this when I was younger, my life would probably be different.
Oh gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Like how many times in a minute? Or are we going like for a whole day?
Right?
A lot of
That's
comments in that number.
exactly, yeah, so that's exactly what I'm talking about. If we could only have these tools at such a young age, and it's only to bring awareness, really, and then you can create your choices. But the most important thing is to have those tools, right?
And how many people grow up never seeing that, never being told that they can be great, never being told that they can be whatever they want to be or whoever they want to be, or as strong or as beautiful as they want to be. There's people that grow up never being told that. So hey, kudos to you, Karen. I'm just like super like, man, you are doing it. You're doing it right. Just know that whatever it is you're doing it right, Karen.
Oh, you're sweet. But you know what, guys?
You
I
go,
think
Glenn Coco.
we all know, we all have these tools, right? I think later along the line, we either forget about it, or things start happening within our lives that we start taking different paths, and then we forget to check back on us and check back on yourself and
So
say,
true.
hey, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Oh, you just got laid off. How does that feel? Like, what are you going through? Like, what happens a lot of times when we're struggling in situations, or what do? We suppress these feelings.
Yes.
We don't talk about them. So I think
Leave
this
me. I know that.
yeah, and we all go through it. I go through it too. But the thing is, the fact that I have the awareness where all of this is coming from, and I'm able to pinpoint all these things, it's like a puzzle, right? If you're able to have everything, if there's one link missing in the puzzle, we can't put it together, right?
That's right.
It's not a complete puzzle. So how do we know where the root of the problem is? First is
Sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead, Jenna.
I was like, that ties really good into like vulnerability and like how you communicate to others, like how you're
Yeah.
feeling.
Absolutely. And I think that's that link of the puzzle. We can't figure out really ourselves if you don't ask yourself the questions. Those deep questions, those vulnerable questions that you want to steer away from. And a lot of times what does society say? Well, let me ask you the question, Jenna, or anybody. What's when you think of vulnerability, what shows up? What do you think about? What comes up?
Weakness.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. What else?
Well, perception, misperception.
And what do you mean by that?
Same thing, fear,
Perfect.
right?
Okay.
I'm
Mhm.
creating, yeah,
Like
yeah, that
judgment.
comes up for sure.
Yeah.
Judgment, exactly. That's what fear, yeah, exactly. Yep.
Have you guys taken my training before? You guys are nailing it.
I'm loving it so
A+.
far. I'm loving it
You
right
guys-
now.
So yeah,
I
you
think
killed. Yeah,
when
you
I-
said it. Go ahead.
Sorry. When I think of like vulnerability, I think of I think sometimes people can get defensive because something that they said is perceived differently than what they meant, and instead of clarifying that, they become defensive, and that's how like arguments start too.
Yes.
Okay. So what if I tell you? So yeah, you're right. So vulnerability is fear, uncertainty. It's when we're taking risk. Like when you started this podcast, was this something that you're like, how long did it take you like to figure this out that you really wanted to do it? And before that, what was the questions that you were questioning about starting this podcast?
Oh, all the stuff that probably that everyone else that started a podcast thought, like, my voice is crappy. No
Oh,
one's
yeah.
going to want to listen.
Mhm.
Right. And just all the, for me, it was, those are the selfish thoughts, right? That are usually like, but once you get over that and you remember that we're not doing it for us necessarily. Right. That's what makes it, I think, something that worth, driving through hell and back for purpose.
So
No, I enjoy seeing the obstacles that we face, and we've already seen small wins with the podcast, and it's just awesome to know that we're helping at least one person.
We got Karen and we're getting helped. So
Yeah.
selfishly, again, this is amazing. So
Let me
see
take
how
some
it's already
notes.
paying off in big ways for us.
well, guys, you guys mentioned something very important. What I heard you say is exposed. You mentioned your voice. You mentioned, so that right there is exposure, right? Like, what are people gonna think? That's
Yeah,
something
big time.
vulnerable, right?
That's a great
Okay,
word for
so
that.
that's vulnerability. That's what we think that vulnerability is, and that's that dark emotion. Okay, that's what I like to say. That dark emotion. It's that emotion that we're just so afraid to be seen. Okay. So it's fear. This is what people, it's that dark emotion when I think of vulnerability, when people are like, this is what I believe vulnerability is. It's fear, it's uncertainty, it's risk, it's being exposed. But what if I tell you that vulnerability is to show up, to be seen? And even when there's nothing, no guaranteed. You started this podcast. There's no guarantee whether you were going to have one viewer, two, but you
Mhm.
did it. You put yourself in a vulnerable situation. That is vulnerability. And there's a misunderstanding. And the misunderstanding of what vulnerability is, Jenna said it. It's a sign of weakness. When people think of vulnerability, people think, oh, no, if I show my emotions, there's no way I'm going to get hurt. But guess what? Every day, right now, we're going through it right now. This pandemic, it's vulnerability.
Big time.
We're like in the
Big
middle. We
time.
don't know what's going to happen, but we're vulnerable. We don't know. We're like, the social media is telling us this. Oh, shoot, what Mr. Donald Trump just said to shoot up Lysol. There was lots of cases, vulnerable people that shoot up Lysol or whatever it was,
Right.
So
Vulnerability.
we're vulnerable in a place that, but what I think vulnerability, it's such a beautiful thing. It's love, it's a belonging, it's acceptance, it's connection, exposure, and openness. Vulnerability is the heart, and like I said, the biggest myth in our culture is that it's the weakness.
And it's
Okay.
not.
And exactly what I believe it is, it's courageous. Let me tell you something. How about
Testify, girl.
when you ask someone, hey, man, I really want to get to know that person. Like, who are they? How many times do you ask that when you meet someone?
Every time.
Every time.
But yet you expect, do you really want to know all about them? But yet you're not willing to open up to them as well.
Yeah,
So
very true. Not all the time.
there you
Sometimes I'm
go.
like, I want to know everything about you, but I'm only going to let you know a little bit about me because I don't think I'm that
Boom,
fantastic. Yeah,
boom.
exactly.
That's it. But if I told you that vulnerability is the most precious thing that each human can have because it's a form of connection.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that men and and also our culture, the way we were raised, especially men, have a hard time with vulnerability because of that. We were told that if you show you're right. I mean, look, we have a man in the house right now.
Big time. Yeah. No,
What do
seriously.
you
Well,
think?
but it's always been chalked up as a comical talking point, but you're actually hitting the nail on the head here, right? And when I say comical, like most people have referred to it in the past as, why men don't like to stop and ask for directions. Well, it's vulnerability. We're not willing to step into that because that is outside of our comfort zone, right? It makes me feel less of a man. Like I'm supposed to have everything covered. I'm supposed to have all the bases covered. I'm, especially
we're doing a
supporting my
podcast.
family. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's also we carry this armor. We carry an armor to protect our heart. But we all know that saying. What's that saying? You live life once, live it up. Right?
YOLO.
You live life once, right? Live it up. So if we were, what would a world, just take a moment and you guys could tell me what that looks like. What do you think a world would look like if everyone took off that mask? And what I mean a mask is we all carry a mask over our face that we're so afraid to take off. So we create so that others don't truly see us or we don't get hurt. So others don't see that authentic side of us, right? So what would a world look like if you get to see the true essence of someone? What would it look like?
Beautiful. In one word or two?
However.
I would
did it
probably
with
be
one
able
word.
to find a man.
I
for
think it'd
sure.
be more loving.
Yeah.
So if nobody knew, Jenna's single, and now.
Shameless plug for Jenna.
Well, Jenna, see, vulnerability, finding a man that's vulnerable, finding a man that can speak with the heart, finding a man that communicate exactly what he's feeling, right?
Hard to find. I'm struggling in that arena, so.
And okay, so let's go to that perfect example. We're in communication. We're talking about communication today. So what is it? What's the struggle?
Well, I was kind of joking, but every man struggles with it. That's what makes it funny, is because the struggle is always going to be there. And I think that's why what you're talking about is always, no matter what time of day or what time of your life, it's always going to be relevant. Mm-hmm. Because you can never just check the box on it, right? Just like you, Karen, you didn't wake up one day, check the box and be like, all right, I'm going to be kick-ass at life right now, right? And that was it. It's every day, like you said earlier, everyday decisions that you've got to make constantly, right? And the struggle is always going to be there. And that's why it's so important that we see things, I think what you're talking about, through the right lens, right? And don't look at vulnerability as what society paints it out to be. And it is kind of for a lot of people, and it still is for me. Every time we record the podcast, it's the same thing. It's not like I'm, in my mind, I've gotten over it. But that's to me, what makes vulnerability so beautiful is the fact that there is some, to your point, you have to be courageous in the process. Mm-hmm. Make sense? Without that, I think it wouldn't be so beautiful to me. And so I struggle with the fact that it's always there and I use the word struggle kind of vaguely, but you know what I mean? It's always there. I'm always going to have to, fight that battle. And let's be real. I'm not going to win every time, right? I'm going to have arguments with my wife. I'm going to have disagreements with my children. There's going to be stuff that is going to happen. I'm going to hurt other people by making bad decisions. But my goal is to try to mitigate those bad decisions and do the best I can to avoid them. And that's why I think it's important that I have the right perspective. And you're nailing it, by the way, on the corrective perspective. I didn't want to cut you off because you were doing such a fantastical job, but corrective perspective, you're knocking out of the park on that, Karen.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, growing up, I also thought that vulnerability was a sign of weakness, and you have to be guarded and everything. But then I always felt that, man, I have, like, every day when you step out or every day you wake up, we're vulnerable. Like, you go to work, you never know whether you're gonna get fired. That's a vulnerable space. In the situation that we're in right now, and very vulnerable space. And I think that vulnerability comes, it's empathy as well, being empathetic. You can't be there if you don't have empathy, you don't have vulnerability. It's kind of like, I remember when I was at school once, and I I came home, and I told my mom about these girls and kids that threw sand at me, and were just very nasty. And her response was, "Well, what did you do? Like, did you do something to hurt them? What did you do?" Like, instead, that's coming from a place like, "Wow, I am so sorry." And jumping to a place where, when she was a child, how would she feel? So
Right.
there you can
Yeah.
see the difference, that she was missing vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
empathy. She wasn't able to step in and have that connection with me at that moment and speak to me, and empathize what I was going through. So yeah, there, and vulnerability it's not just relationships. When people probably think of vulnerability, they think of just like love or showing emotion, but it's like a more it's a lot. It's just going to school,
It's
maybe
always
passing
there.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like different scenarios. But going back to the communication and vulnerability, I believe that what makes a good relationship, and we're talking about friendship, business, we're talking about any
Any
relationship out
relationship,
there.
any kind of relationship.
Yes, it's having the most uncomfortable conversations that you want to steer away from.
Mm-hmm.
That right there is vulnerability. If you're able to have those conversations, then
Yeah.
you have just mastered a relationship that you can really, like, it can really bloom into something beautiful.
And
It's
those
those
relationships take time to get to that point sometimes too, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
important to
well,
keep that in mind, right? Yeah.
if it depends. If you don't take off the mask, we live in a life, in a society where everybody's walking around with a mask on, right? So, like you just said, it's hard, it's a challenge to get up and do that. But if only I can be that to you, I'm pretty sure, if I'm creating that space, that you'll be able to open up with me, and we will
Absolutely.
have
I agree.
that conversation, right? But the world we live in is totally different. It's that, we're living in a place where a lot of people have been hurt, or past experience, and they bring it into this relationship, or either stuff that you've done before, and is it's a challenge. But if you are raw and authentic, and that's just who you are, and that's how you show up, guess what? You're going to create that ripple effect.
Every time too.
Yeah. But it's those uncomfortable conversations that really, really just, that you get to really learn so much about others, and you get to really connect with people in a deeper way. But it's those
Breakthrough points.
conversations. Say what?
They're breakthrough points.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They're breakthrough points. But you have to allow yourself to go there, and then that's what people steer away from because they don't want to feel it. They're afraid of the unknown. But how do you know where things are gonna go if you don't try it?
Fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been having a lot of that with like getting to know, like I said, I'm single and I'm trying to get to know men, and I feel like I'm doing all the asking, or I'm like the one trying to open up, but they are like just like talking to a wall. It's like,
Because they haven't reached their breaking point.
yeah.
Or some of them just aren't going to be as open on the first, you know what I mean? Some of them are going to take a little more time. I think
I mean,
Karen
I'm
brought
not
up a good point.
asking them like
People got
serious
damaged.
questions like right off the bat, but it's just a fact of like just communicating well to the point, like, okay, like, for instance, like, hey, how's your day? Like those simple things, instead of just getting, oh, good, how was yours?
Right.
Like, no, like, let me know, like, what are you doing? Like, if this is the only way we can communicate now through, video or phone, it's like, you're going to have to give more. You're going to have to like kind of be open to that other aspect of your vulnerability, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I also think that if I'm talking to somebody and I really truly do want to know more than just the it was good answer, you could always just ask another question, right? Like, well, what was your favorite part about today? What was good? What did you like about it?
Maybe they
Right?
just ain't into me, okay?
Well, that's what I got to do with my kids is my point, right? I got to do that with my kids sometimes. I got to be like, hey, like, tell me a little bit more. I got to dig. And I do it with even people that I work with, coworkers that I work with. I work with a lot of really good people that I care deeply about. And sometimes when I'm talking, we're having a work conversation and I can tell something's off, maybe I'll call them up on the side and just kind of say, hey, what's going on? How's your day been? And you get that sometimes. Yeah, it's good. I'm okay. Right. And I want to know more, but I want them to know why I want to know more. I want to know more because I want them to know that I care, and then I want to help encourage them. Right. So you ask another question like, hey, are you sure everything's okay? Because it kind of, I was a little concerned. Maybe you were quieter than usual or whatever, but I'm here for you if you need me. Right. Sometimes people need that, but I know you're not talking like deep like that, but you get my point.
Well, those deep conversations are the ones that we should be having, right? Because all the other ones, like, hey, what did you do today? Because that's like, oh, it's so annoying when I get those texts from these dudes. I'm like, oh, so how's your day? I'm like, oh, no. It's more like, hey. I'm like, what? You just like,
I'm just putting it out
the text there.
Yeah.
Why did you just say? Why not start a conversation? It's just so hard, and I don't know if it's because of social media, technology, or whatever, that it's hard for people to tap into that spot and how to have good conversations like that, get to know you conversations in a deeper way if you're really trying to get to know me, right?
Right. Conversation that maybe has potential for growth.
Meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think those are the conversations, but a lot of times people say, yeah, I want to get to know them, and the minute you're asked like these questions, they're like, damn, that was deep. I'm like, no, that's not deep. It's just getting to know you, and that's the way you get to know someone. Exactly.
Well, you got to be so deep, Karen. It's too deep. Keep it in the shallow end.
Too deep.
Everyone's, a lot of people want to keep the floaties on. They want to keep the floaties on, hang out in the shallow end where it's safe, right? Make it look cool. Some of us even want to accessorize our floaties. I mean, it's real. It's real. But
I like that. I like that. When are you going to take off your floaties? You're good. Let's go.
Right, like stop investing in the floaty and start investing in you, because the floaty's nothing. You're something, right?
Well, that's why. Why do you think it takes
for fear?
Yeah, take off. Yeah, that's a good one.
That kind of fear, yeah. That's a legit reason to wear a floaty, by the way. I'm not just floaties. Like, if you are listening right now and you do not know how to swim, do not take my hatred on the floaty as, direct instruction to not use it. If you're not ready to ditch the floaty, if you're not ready to ditch the floaty, please keep using the floaty. Okay, continue. Sorry about that.
No, yeah, you're right. I really like that analogy that, wear your floaties. But it's like one of those things that if we're not having these conversations, then how in the heck am I really gonna get to know you? And then you ask, oh, you're a year in, and then you realize, oh wow, he used to be very I don't know, like jealous, or he was extremely controlling. But then because we didn't have those uncomfortable conversations in the beginning, now you're getting to really see, you know how people's like, oh my gosh, 6 months later, I did not know she was like
Yeah, and then they
that.
start painting up these weird, crazy things, and yeah,
Wow, he literally did this. Well, guess what? It's because it takes a while to really get to know someone, right?
yeah,
And people start taking off, you start seeing that mask coming off little bit by little bit, and sometimes you just don't like it. And that's
yeah.
what it
And
is.
because you don't want to go straight up, you don't want to be too much. Like I prefer not to introduce myself. Hey, my name's Nick. I can be kind of a prick sometimes. How are you? Like I would leave that middle part out, right? But it's true. All of us have it, right? All of us have it. And if I was being more specific, I would say I can be kind of a prick sometimes when I haven't eaten food in a while because I get hangry, right? But we're all that way. And I think there's just some of us are just a little harder to crack than others. Jenna, I think you need to just stay encouraged on your quest for your partner there. I think
I haven't
also,
really been putting a lot of effort into it, though. I'm gonna be honest.
well,
So,
and
sorry.
honestly,
Girl,
you
you in
really
quarantine.
have
Calm
to.
down.
You,
You in quarantine. Let's be
I don't
real. It's
want to
not that you're
catch
not
that
putting the
Rona.
effort.
yeah,
It's
you
not
don't
that you're
want
not
the
putting
Rona,
the effort,
from what
girl.
I
It's
hear.
because you're forced to be in quarantine. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Real
Yeah.
talk right there. Real talk.
Exactly. But yeah, I think that having those vulnerable conversations with anybody, you become just more connected to that person. And I
And to
think in this
yourself,
world,
right? And
say
to
what?
yourself. And to yourself. You're able to become more connected with yourself and your past by doing that as well. Because a lot of times communicating it with somebody else, like you said, really walking through that state of vulnerability all the way, I think helps you too, like you said, right? Like that helps you, the mental clarity you gain there is huge.
Yeah, and I
Absolutely.
know that like Karen and Audrey are like my two best friends because I do have those uncomfortable conversations with them, and I do put myself in that vulnerable space, and I don't ever feel judged or like,
Hmm.
out of order or any way. It's like I know that those are two women in my life that I can go to no matter what. So it's like it's nice to have those people in your life. And when you think about trying to open up, it's like wow, you can have like more people like that in your life if you just are able to open up just a little bit more.
But they
Right.
also have to be able to reciprocate that as
Yeah,
well.
and then they can inspire you and like change the way you think of,
Big
Yeah,
time.
Because
I
when you find
think you
friends like that, they help you self-discover things that you were unaware of.
Mhm.
Correct.
and what's and the one way in order to really, really see that, I know I struggled with this for a long time, is listening.
Mm.
Yeah.
Listening is a very powerful tool that I learned not too long ago, right? So when you listen, you really get to hear so much and really get to know that person. And then you're able to ask the questions, like deeper questions to really. And when someone mentioned breakthrough, I think it was Jenna. Um, that's when you have those breakthroughs. It's that moment when you really get to hear that person and where they're coming from, what's going on. And that listening is what leads your friend or whoever you're speaking to a deeper conversation. And that leads to breakthroughs. And breakthroughs is discovering something about yourself that you did not know. And it's a relief you know and I think another thing you mentioned very important, Jenna, was judgment with your friendships, and having when you can come and talk to us about anything. That's very important because that's why a lot of people aren't able to have that buddy, that 3 a.m. friend that they could call, because the sad part is that we live in a world of judgment, you know, and the fact that you have us and Audrey, like, and you know that you can come from a place and it's safe and you can speak whatever that is and there's no judgment. That's beautiful. I'm glad that I'm able to be that person for you too.
I love
you.
it.
I'm doing a heart with my fingers.
I love you guys. Nick,
So cool.
I haven't met you yet in person, but I love you because you're associated with Audrey.
I feel loved.
Yes, and Audrey is an amazing person. I mean, since the day I've met her, she shows so much compassion, love, just being authentic, meaning raw.
She is. She's a G.
That's just who she is, you know?
That's who I
So
am.
that I know coming from your brother that, you know, you express and have that within yourself too. So it's amazing that you guys have this podcast together.
It
Oh,
is.
thank you.
Yeah.
I
It
think
is.
the
It's
first,
just an excuse for me to hang out with my baby sister every week.
that's
but
all this really was.
we call it a
'cause
podcast. So
We never spoke to each other, you know. I'm just kidding. On the
Mhm.
regular.
Just an excuse.
No,
It's
when I
true.
remember I met Karen at your mom's house. It was like she came over for dinner one night, right?
where are you from,
Yeah.
Karen?
I am originally from California, Monterey, California. Whoop whoop. We're famous for our aquarium, but I lived in Las Vegas for quite a while, for like, I think, I don't know, maybe 9 years, 10 years. And then I supposedly fell in love. And I said supposedly, that was bad. I fell in love. And after 2 years of long distance, I moved to the Bay Area. And I had my business out there, Fit Wheels, and I moved everything here, so I had to start everything all over again.
Wow.
And then we recently broke up. So and it was crazy because Jenna and I talked about that, and I said, you know what, Jenna, what I saw, because I believe that from anything tragic that happens in our life or anything that we see as horrible or whatever that is, that there's always a lesson, and there's always something powerful too that we can take away from. Because if I look at this and I'm like, oh, this was horrible, I can't believe it, then I'm powerless. I'm becoming a victim of my situation. But when we ended our relationship, I was thinking like, okay, what happened? Like, it takes two to tango. So like, what was missing in my relationship? And because you get so caught up with your business, we both ran our business, I felt like, oh my God, it was us having this moment of having these vulnerable conversations that we really did not want to have. And we were just like, nope, we're just too busy, caught up with work. And I think that's what was missing, because there was a lot of things that I was not happy in a relationship, and I'm sure he was too, you know. And it was those uncomfortable conversations, like for me was, man, I'm starting to feel like I don't love you, but is it me or is it you, or like, what's going on? And for me, I looked at him, I'm like, he's an amazing guy, he has all these qualities, he's the guy that I've always dreamed of or imagined of. Maybe it's me, I'm the problem. But the fact that I didn't have these conversations with him, like those deep, raw conversations, because I was so afraid that would end my relationship. Guess what? At the end of the day, it ended because of that. So it was something that I resisted. But what they say is, what you resist, persist. And boom, it happened. So I always give my stories in my life, so that, because I believe that that's where we all learn from. And this is the last, having the episode of today that you guys have on communication. that's what I think is very important, is having those raw conversations, even though you think they're bad, but you know that you're coming from a place of love, not from attacking, but coming from a place of love, because you care about that person so much and you value your relationship that you want to have that to avoid um, a negative outcome, if that's what it is, or not a negative outcome. I hate saying that word, but an outcome that you want to steer away from, you know. So yeah, that was my biggest learning in my relationship, is having those conversations.
I love hearing you say that, though, that, whenever we face challenges in our lives, that you do have to look at it as a lesson. It's like a learning curve of, I guess, how I'm perceiving that is, like, Nick and I had a pretty big, a tragic thing happen to us when we were children. And unfortunately, our mother passed away. But how I look at that, and even how I looked at it as a kid, it was more so of like, what I'm taking away from this is not the fact that, like, oh, we lost our mother. It was, I want to live every day to the fullest that I can and be happy, and I want to spread my happiness to others so that they don't forget about that.
Yep. It's the right perspective, corrective perspective, right? Shameless plug, corrective perspective.
But I mean, it's in any situation, you can either let it destroy you or you can let it help grow you,
Absolutely.
Don't put up walls because you face something difficult in your life. Because I think that's what a lot of people do. They think like, oh, I need to shelter myself. I need to shelter my feelings. And that's something that I always kind of question of, like, but why? Why do you have to shelter yourself? Like, that's something that you should celebrate, to let people know, like, hey, I overcame this by doing, X, Y, and Z, or whatever it is. So I think that's something that, and I think it took me a while. I don't really, Nick, I think you can agree. I didn't really talk about mom that much, but it wasn't because I think a lot of people had the not the right perspective as me, maybe.
Yeah.
It wasn't because I was hurt by it and like I wanted to forget about it. It was because I didn't want people to feel sad or sorry for us and our family.
Right.
Because
same thing. Same for me.
When somebody tells you like, oh yeah, so and so passed away, and they're always like, oh, I'm so sorry, and I'm like, but why? They had an amazing life. Don't be sorry.
Yeah.
Like, please don't be sorry.
Well, but that's just it's a kind.
I know
thing
it's the polite
right?
thing.
And so and you are sorry. You're not sorry saying like, hey, I'm trying to pour it on thick that your situation's crappy. You're just saying, hey, I want to empathize with you here, and this is the only way I can do that is by just saying I'm sorry.
Yeah. But as an 11-year-old kid, I'm like, why is everybody saying they're sorry?
Yeah, at that age, you're like, yeah, it's different. Yeah, it's a weird. I totally get that. Yeah. Makes sense. Well, I thought. Sorry, Karen. Did you have some more gold for us?
Yeah.
No, I said I liked what Audrey just said about putting up how people sometimes put up walls and try to suppress their emotions and their feelings, and I think that a lot of times in situations and when we deal with death is vulnerability. Family members that are dealing with that, it's vulnerability. It's like that emotional state of mind and all that. So I think that Audrey is I applaud you guys and applaud you for at a young age that you knew what you wanted, that you knew that your mom had that great life, and it sounds that you had a great connection with her, and that's why you're living the life that you are today. And at 11 years old, that is huge learning, that you figured it out on your own to live a life of joy and happiness, and not allowing a tragedy like this to create those walls and to put up those walls, but to really bring joy. And it almost sounds like you literally, I'm sure that your mom is looking down and saying, wow, I am so proud of you, and I think that's something that a lot of us go through, because I'm sure we all dealt with death one way or another, family members, friends, and everything. But I think that what you said was very important. A lot of times we put up walls, we suppress our feelings, and it's good that you did not take that route. You were going for it, and obviously you're living that testimony of joy and happiness, and being around you. You don't. That's who you represent. You want that.
Yeah, she definitely represents sore cheeks. Smiling so much.
I think
she knows how to
everyone in
make
the
me
family
pee
does.
myself. Yeah.
I've
what were you
definitely
saying?
learned a lot from Audrey on that topic.
Good.
She's a great teacher, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's a
We
great
can
teacher.
all learn.
Didn't even know it, guys. Didn't even
Yeah.
know it.
Help her get out that door with that head when we're done with this episode. Jenna. I don't know, you got some butter or something? Go grab a tub of butter and just start buttering up the sides of that thing because it's going to be a minute. So
We don't got
I'm
butter in this
totally
house.
kidding.
We got Greek yogurt.
I'm totally kidding.
And olive oil.
Of course you got Greek yogurt. I can't believe I said butter. I can't believe I said it. It's terrible.
Hey, but no, I think you said it right though. You're like don't butter her up, right?
Yeah, see, I like that. Thank you. Nice save,
Yeah, I
Karen.
know what
Nice
you were
save. Actually, it
saying.
was like we planned the whole thing. It was one of those, they call it an alley-oop. I think when you toss it up, he puts it in. That's what I just did. I alley-ooped, assisted. Bam, Karen dropping gold bricks.
Yeah.
I know.
Actually,
You've been dropping a lot of gold.
yeah, so speaking of the gold that you brought to episode 18, Karen, first of all, thank you so much. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of all of our listeners when I say thank you. I just learned a lot about myself that I now have to go deal with. Totally kidding. I think
Just
you did
so
a good job.
Knows, they
And
just got a free session.
Yeah,
from
go
Karen.
talk to your wife.
exactly.
Nick.
You just got a free session. Some of you may get a bill. I don't know. It all depends on the responses we get from the ads that we're going to run. But my point is, I was expecting you, based on all the good stuff that Jenna and Audrey were saying, I was expecting you, Karen, to come in here and probably sprinkle a little bit of gold on top of this podcast, that we do in Podcastland. And I was pretty pumped about it, but I didn't realize you were going to back up the trucks and dump pure gold all over
bricks.
us. But I'm loving it. I'm covered in gold. My teeth are gold. I feel gold. And really, though, I say that really not to make light of anything that you said, Karen. I just think it's fantastic that you came on here and shared all those really interesting thoughts with us. And your perspective is that of a winner. Obviously, I can see why Audrey just she loves you and speaks so highly of you. Same with Jenna. So just awesome experience for me. I had a great time. I think Audrey had an okay time, and Jenna, I'm just kidding. No, it was just awesome. I mean, I learned a lot, and so much cool stuff, again, getting back to that point that we have to keep working out that muscle, that perspective muscle, the vulnerability muscle. It doesn't just, hey, I check the box and I move on. You've got to stick with it. You've got to keep putting that kind of work into yourself, the work that it takes to check yourself, to stop and pull yourself out of a situation and look at it for what it is and not for what your emotions tell you it is. All that stuff. And I think that's what we're trying to do with this space, with the Stretch It Out podcast. We're just trying to be another little reminder, another little place where people can say, hey, yeah, I got some encouragement, or yeah, I was totally thinking about that situation the wrong way. Like you said, Karen, painting myself out to be the victim. And in reality, I'm not the victim. I just needed some help correcting my perspective. And what you're doing, I think, is huge, because you're getting, like you said, these kids, some of them, who knows how many of them without you, like I said earlier, maybe would miss out on the message of hope entirely. So, and I know you don't take that lightly, but I think that that's just so huge what it is you're doing. And the torch that you're carrying, I think it's seen by probably so much more than you even realize. And my hope is that everything you shared today touches at least one individual that needs to hear it. And of course, all of our listeners that want to hear it, but just really appreciate it. Appreciate the time. I was hoping to kind of try to get to the point where we're wrapping it up. So Audrey, Karen, Jenna.
Karen, can you share what your Instagram is, your business? How can people reach you if they want?
Yeah, we got to make that happen. And then we'll make sure it's also on all of our social media posts. And when I say we, I mean Audrey. So continue.
Yeah. Thank you again. And I know you said that you want to create a podcast of gold, and I believe that you did, and your first move was taking that initiative and taking that risk that a lot of people don't do, and they wait. And live that life of fear, and you guys didn't. So first off, I just want to congratulate you guys for finally, for doing something like this for all of us. And I just came on the podcast just to add some seasoning. That's it, because you guys already got it. You already have it. You're 1000% all in. You're golden. So
Hey, I
just
appreciate
came in
it.
to add some. I love pepper, so I add a little pepper to it. But
A little spice.
yeah. You can always find me FitWheels, FitWheelz, FitWheels, and the website, same thing, www.com, fitwheels.com. What did I say? www. Okay.
Fitwheels.com. Fitwheels.com.
I'm like, do we
Fitwheels.com,
still do
guys.
www? WWE.
I don't know.
No, it's
Fitwheels.com,
World
guys.
Wide Web. Look us up on the World Wide Web. We don't do
Is
that
that
anymore,
what it
do we?
is? World Wide Web. And I do
I think
host
so.
Empower
It
Mind.
is.
I do host Empower Mind coach lessons. We do seminars and all that. So amazing
And all
stuff
that's
coming
available
out.
there on your website?
So we're actually working. This is all new stuff that I'm putting out just because of this whole pandemic that we're in. But yes, we are actually working on it right now. So it's a whole different program. It's under FitWheels, and it will be under Empower Mind. So yeah, we host like stuff like webinars, and kids really, or adults also go in, and we talk about either relationships, we talk about self-esteem, or what it is to live a life of limited beliefs and all of these things, the comfort zone. So anyways, thank you so much for having me. And Jenna, thank you. I love you guys.
Love
This
you.
has been real.
We love you and miss you.
Thank you. Thank
This
you.
is
Yeah, I had a
awesome.
great time. Yeah, I had a freaking awesome time. Jenna,
Yeah.
I know you had something else you were going to say.
Any shout outs?
Oh.
Mama Maria?
Oh. Thank you for joining us and discovering what it's all about. Vulnerability, baby. Wreck down those walls.
Woo!
Thanks again, Karen. Thanks, Jenna. Thanks, Audrey. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Have
You're
a great
listening
week.
to Stretch It Out.
The Stretch It Out podcast. Love y'all. Peace.